the output appear on a new line after this. And we're also flushing the buffer. So we're telling our operating system, output this text now, don't save it up and do it later. And notice I've got the tab here as well. I've indented all these statements, one tab, which is very important. So let's select the project here. Let's just run it and see what happens. And it says number of cats, 5. And we can have multiple variables in the program. So on the next line here, we could say int number dogs. And there's nothing special about this text except that it followed the conventions that I explained earlier with regard to naming. But we could call it anything. I could, call it that if I wanted. But you've got to give your variables descriptive names so that you know what they are. So I'm going to call this number dogs. This is the number of dogs that I own. I don't actually own any dogs, but just imagine. I'm going to say equals 7. So I've got 5 cats and 7 dogs. Now let's put underneath here, cout, number of dogs, colon, and then a chevron, and number dogs, and a chevron and endler. And we should see exactly what you expect. So let's run the program, yes. And here we are, number of dogs, 7. Now we can also do stuff like adding these together. So I could say here cout, we need a kind of chevron that points towards the cout, if you like. And let's say here, between double quotes, total number of animals, colon, and then after the closing quote, chevron. And let's say number cats plus number dogs. And then let's put a chevron in and endler, like that. And let's run that. So it's going to tell us, it's going to, as you can guess, it's going to add the number of cats to the number of dogs. And then we've got total number of animals, 12. So it's pretty simple. But another thing that we can do with variables is we can reassign the value that they hold. That's why we call them variables, because they change, they vary. So let's output some text here. Cout, new dog acquired. Acquired. How do you spell acquired? Yeah, it's like that. New dog acquired. And chevron, endler. And let's say here, number dogs equals number dogs plus 1. I'm going to explain that in just a second, and then let's output cout, new number of dogs, and a chevron, and number dogs, chevron. If you feel like you're losing the plot a bit here, it'll become a lot clearer when you type it out yourself, believe me, but you do need to practice this. Let's run this, just see what happens firstly. So it says now, new number of dogs is 8, so before it was 7, and now it's 8. So what happened here? What happened was, this expression is read from left to right. No, from right to left, I suppose. So what we do, what we're doing is we take the existing number of dogs and we add 1 to it, and then we take that value, so reading from right to left, we take that value and we store it back in number of dogs. So the equals sign here is kind of like an instruction that says store. So from right to left, we take number of dogs, we add 1 to it, and we store it back in the original bit of memory that we've labelled number dogs. Remember, it's just a label bit of memory that can contain a value. And we then output that value down here. You can add variables together too. So like I could have added, I could create one called number of animals, int number animals, let's say animals equals number cats plus number dogs. And Let's just change that, number animals, and I could output that. I could say, instead of putting the plus here directly in the cout statement, I could say here number animals, and that would also work. Let's run this. So it says number of animals, 12. So here I've added two variables together. I've added the value stored in the variables together. So reading from right to left, I've got the number of dogs. So this is the memory labeled number dogs, and it's got the value 7 in it. And I've added it to the value in the memory location that I've labeled number cats. And then I've stored that value, the combined value here, I've stored it in a bit of memory which I've allocated here, suitable for storing an integer. I've stored that combined value in a bit of memory which I've labelled number animals, and here I'm outputting that value that's stored at that memory location. So if this is the first time you've seen this, and it's the first time you've thought about this, it's going to seem pretty complicated, all this talk of memory and adding values stored in memory locations and variables and stuff. But programming, it's like learning a language. Like what a lot of people do when they start learning is they try to analyse everything in minute detail. They write loads of notes, they agonise over the precise meaning of everything. But what you really need to do, what's really more important, is just to practice it, practice typing it. Because when you type it out, somehow it's like learning a human language, like learning Italian if you're not Italian or something. As you practice speaking it and using it, you get to the point where when you need a particular bit of language, it just comes out of your mouth. You just know automatically what to use. And like if you're Italian and you speak Italian, you don't spend your time agonising about Italian grammar. You don't know the rules of Italian grammar even necessarily. You just speak it automatically. And it's similar with programming. It's really important now to go away and practice this. Type out a program like this one. If you want, start by typing this exact program, but type it all out yourself and then try changing it. Create variables that you've named yourself, put different values in them, try adding them together, try outputting them with cout. See what happens. So make up your own little program where you've got some variables and you've got variables that you're adding together and you're outputting them with cout. It's really, really important that you do that, because just watching the video, you won't learn C++. It's all about practicing it. But I hope you've basically understood roughly what's happening. And when you type this out a few times, type it out at least once and play around with it a little bit. And when you keep doing it, slowly this will start to seem intuitive and obvious, even if it seems impenetrable now. But it's vital that you do type it for yourself and get it working. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial, and until next time.